Hey, thanks for stopping into Night Shift Video. My name is James, and tonight I am joined by this guy.
I'm Cody.
Tonight I have a story for us, Cody.
Hit me. I'm ready.
This one is a very long name.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have like a true title.
Okay.
But this comes from a Reddit post on a subreddit called R Paranormal Encounters.
Ooh.
Which this is actually supposed to be reserved for true stories. So obviously, you know, we're going to do everything we can to, even if we have disbelief, to suspend it.
Sure.
And, you know, just be able to take this for what it is. This is someone's true account of something that happened to them.
Okay. I'm ready.
So this comes from Reddit user CricketSongs. And the title of the post is "Something terrifying recently happened to me at a rural cemetery, and I've been having strange nightmares about it."
That was a long title, but I think it gives you a lot to go on.
There you go. All right, we're going to jump in here. I've never really visited this subreddit before, but I wanted to share the story with someone. I really can't find a reasonable explanation for what happened that night. I tend to be more of a skeptic in general, though I'm sure pretty much everyone says that. And, you know, it was such a strange and alarming experience that it's something that I wanted to share with all of you. This happened a couple months ago. My friend had heard that the northern lights might be visible in our area. I remember when this happened. It was not that long ago.
Nope.
Because we were supposed to be able to see some of it, but it was like super cloudy that night and we couldn't see shit. So yeah. They asked if I wanted to go for a drive out of the country to see if we could catch a glimpse. So we headed out after dark and drove for a few hours, just searching for a good vantage point. After a while, we started to give up on seeing the lights. My friend realized that we were close to her hometown and noted that she had been wanting to visit the local cemetery to find the graves of some of her distant relatives. She had recently been researching her genealogy. It was a clear, warm night, and we were both a little disappointed that we didn't see the lights, but we wanted to make the trip worthwhile, so we agreed to swing by the cemetery. We found the graves, took some photos, and just wandered around for a little while. I had been feeling increasingly anxious ever since we arrived, which struck me as odd. I've done several cemetery projects as an archaeologist, and I normally don't feel nervous in cemeteries, even at night. In fact, I usually find that cemeteries are pretty peaceful and calming. But I felt really strange in that cemetery, and I found myself frequently spinning around because I felt like someone was standing behind me. Still, I just chalked it up to casual anxiety and tried not to dwell on it. One of the problems with having an anxiety disorder is that sometimes it's hard to tell when your nervousness is actually justified. Even in retrospect, I don't know if my anxiety was just in my head or if it was related to what would happen next. After wandering for a while, we realized that it was approaching 1 a.m. and that we should probably get back home. We headed toward the car. The car was in sight, and my friend was a few yards ahead of me when this happened. I suddenly got that nervous feeling again and thought that I heard someone running up behind me. I was starting to turn my head to look back when I felt something collide with my back right between my shoulder blades. There was a weight behind it, as if someone had actually hurtled into me. The impact was so forceful that I was thrown forward and fell flat on my face. As I scrambled to get back up, I felt the weight hitting me in the shoulders again, and I was shoved back down. I glanced up to see my friend running toward me. She had also heard someone running up to us. She had heard my initial fall, and she had turned just in time to see me being pushed back down. She would later tell me that she had seen my hoodie flattening against my back and shifting as if someone had been pressing their hands against my shoulders. She grabbed my arm to pull me up, and the weight disappeared. We both bolted to the car. We jumped in and locked the doors. She immediately peeled out, and we sped away from the cemetery.
Oof.
We drove for several minutes without saying a word. I think we were both stunned and, more than anything, confused. She finally glanced at me and said, "What the hell just happened?" I didn't quite know how to answer that. I told her that someone had shoved me to the ground, and she said, "I know. I saw. But what was it? There was nobody there." We tried to come up with a rational explanation, but none of them made any sense. Had someone ambushed me then bolted? Definitely not. We would have seen them. Had I tripped? No, it definitely felt like something was pushing me, and my friend had seen me being shoved back down. Was it The wind? It's just not possible. There hadn't been so much as a breeze that night. And if there had been some freak gust of wind, it would hit my friend too. We just couldn't explain it. Neither of us had seen anything there. Whatever pushed me twice, it hadn't been visible. As the adrenaline faded, I noticed something else. My back was hurting. Right between my shoulder blades, right where I felt that impact, I could feel a sort of stinging, prickly sensation. It felt like my back had been brushed with stinging nettles. I mentioned this to my friend, and she insisted on pulling over to take a look at my back. She switched the hood light on and pulled the collar of my hoodie down to take a look. I heard her mutter, "What the fuck?" She took a photo of my back and showed it to me. The skin between my shoulder blades was reddened, and several little blisters had started to appear. They later swelled up and popped. It was like I had gotten a sunburn. There weren't any scratches or anything. It was a subtle mark, but it was clearly there. We couldn't explain how I'd gotten burned. It hadn't touched my back. I hadn't rubbed against anything, and it hurt. It continued to sting for several days. There's a photo included. I haven't clicked on it yet. We're going to wait for that until later.
Okay.
I couldn't sleep that night. My back hurt. And every time I started to drift off, I'd suddenly sense that someone was standing over my shoulder, and I would startle awake. I couldn't really understand what happened at the cemetery, but it rattled me. I don't know if I believe in ghosts or demons, to be honest, but I know that something truly bizarre and frightening happened that night. It's been something difficult to come to terms with, and I already have PSD from an actual assault. There is something deeply unsettling about the fact that in this instance, it didn't seem like there was anything I could have done to defend myself. It's been a major setback in my recovery from previous trauma. I've had several odd nightmares since then. Dreams that were similar to the nightmares that I used to have as a kid, and I don't know why, but for as long as I can remember, I've had dreams in which a creature was attempting to lure me in one way or another. And in the dreams, I usually understand that this creature is some kind of devil or demon. Sometimes it takes the form of an old woman. I had a dream where I was about 13 years old in which I was wandering through a forest. I came across a little cottage with an old woman standing by the porch. She beckoned me inside, and I said, "Nah." We spent some time casually talking, and I worked my way inside. We started baking cookies. I felt uneasy around her and got the sense that she was wanting something from me. At one point, I glanced out the window and noticed a group of people standing in the yard, calling out to the old woman. I asked her who these people were. I vividly remember what she told me. "They want me to take them in, but I don't want them. I want you."
Ew.
In other dreams, this thing has a more sinister appearance, but I always recognized it as the same entity. I sometimes have dreams in which it is sitting in the dark at my bedside whispering to me. It has a shadowy appearance with a long, lanky limbs and empty eye sockets. Its teeth are made of razor wire, and there is something like blood or wine gleaming on its lips. In those dreams, I can hear it whispering, but I can't understand what it's saying. Sometimes I have the same creature sitting in the chair in the corner of my room, eating a rotten apple. I know these are just dreams, but I mention it because those dreams had subsided in my early 20s, but since the incident at the cemetery, they have returned. It seems to have shaken my understanding of the world around me. In these new dreams, the creature is standing upright behind me at the cemetery. Time is standing still. I can see my friend frozen ahead of me, and the creature is whispering at my back. I don't know why my mind is conflating that creature with my encounter at the cemetery, but it is. Anyway, I just wanted to share this because I have no idea what the fuck happened that night. My friend believes it was a ghost, but I don't know. My specialty as an anthropologist/archaeologist is in religion and folklore, but I've never experienced anything like this, and I really don't know what to do with it. Thanks for reading.
Whew.
It's a good story.
It's intense, man.
That's a good story. So, yep, that's user CricketSongs on Reddit. Thanks for sharing CricketSongs. I think that is a really interesting story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I was actually really stoked that you were going to be here tonight because I thought the dream sequences were pretty good,
dude. The dream. So like and maybe this is a normal thing. I don't know, but like I've also had dream sequences, like they're reoccurring. Yeah, but it's more than that, right?
Yeah.
Where like I've had these dreams where it's not just I'm falling or I'm going to school naked. Like, no. Like I had a reoccurring nightmare in my teens where there was an old lady. It wasn't in the woods. It wasn't like not saying that these dreams are like I want to make that clear, but she always had like, for whatever reason, it was the same old lady, and I use quotation marks if you're listening to this, because she would always look different.
Sure.
It was always an older lady.
Felt like it was the same.
Yep, and I would always get overpowered by her. And then you'd get to that place in your dream where you can't fight back, right? You can't throw a punch. You can't, like, for some reason you're like weak as a paperclip.
Yep.
And she would like hold me down. She would keep me for years, or she would do these different things, or she'd kill me, or like, but like in these dreams, like every end was I would be completely overpowered, completely useless. And like, I don't know, like dude, that's a wild story.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, especially like, you know, I mean, she tied back to traumatic incidences in her life, and like trauma, real or in dreams, like really doesn't matter.
Right.
Like that's how your brain reacts to these things. And so like to tie this spirit, like, I don't know. I'm certainly not an expert, but like, no, in my mind, there is no coincidence. And I would love to know how this continues to pan out. Like, that's a wild story. But I think it's really interesting that she identified, like, in her experience, like cemeteries are peaceful, because actually, I feel the same way. And so I think, actually my dorm in college sat right up against a cemetery, and at least a couple times a week, I would go out and walk the cemetery at night because nobody else was there. Yeah. And it was so peaceful. And like, you can feel, like, this is going to sound like, to people who don't get it, like, you can feel rest there. Sure. And like, I don't know what I would do if I walked into a cemetery that didn't feel that way. And like, I've experienced this somewhat, like, I was a history major. I've been on historical battlegrounds, and you can feel unease. Right. It's a little different. It's a little different than like what I would imagine an angry spirit would feel like. You can feel restlessness, though. Yeah, that's a good word. So like, I feel like the fact that she was in the cemetery and she felt this unease, like, I've been there. I felt that. That's wild.
It's a good chiller time entry, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, that about does it for us tonight for Night Shift Video. My name is James, and this...
I'm Cody.
We're just saying, thanks for stopping in.